Best Friend Screwloose by Obsolescence. Doc Stable stepped into the little white room where they kept the problem patient sometimes. It was terribly dull, with its whitewashed walls and flickering fluorescent lights, but it was, when you got right down to it, safe for both doctor and patient. Very much like a prison, but there was no helping that. He took a seat in front of the shatterproof glass and pressed a button on the intercom. "Hello, Screwloose," he said, using his calmest, most even tone. "How are we doing today?" The cyan mare on the opposite side said something in response. Doc wasn't quite sure what. He could have heard her, of course, if he turned on her microphone from his panel, but he preferred to leave his patients some privacy. The hospital had a tendency to get intrusive at times. "Screwloose," he said, "listen carefully to what I'm about to tell you." She snapped rigidly to attention. Positive reinforcement had helped her to realize that she should listen carefully when told to do so. Praise when she listened and no praise when she didn't. Basic psychology really, but it worked like a charm. "There's a big red button in front of you. Can you see it? Nod your head if yes, shake if no." She scanned the table in front of her. In short order, her eyes brightened and she started nodding like wild. Of course she saw the button. It was the only thing there, beside her microphone and speaker. It was impossible to miss. "Good job, Screwloose," said Doc. "Great work. Now, do you see the microphone too? Nod if yes, shake if no." She nodded again, a wide grin on her face. She looked so proud of herself for seeing that microphone. And that was good. Basic self-realization was a sign of improvement. "Excellent, Screwloose. Now listen carefully. Press the button and speak into the microphone when you want to say something to me." She slammed her hoof down onto the button and looked at him for approval. "Yes, Screwloose," Doc said patiently. "Keep going." Screwloose leaned her head over to the microphone and spoke. On the other side of the glass, the dog speaker crackled.
Meow.
"Are we a cat today, Screwloose?"
Kitty.
she told him, her hoof still on the button. He wanted to tell her that she didn't need to have it pressed unless she wanted to say something, but he decided against it. It was important that they stay on exactly on one topic at a time, even if it was cats. He took his hoof off his own button and sighed. He hated cats. Horrible, nasty things they were. Got hairballs all over the place. He could have sworn he'd mentioned his thoughts on felines to Screwloose at one point or another. Was she doing this to spite him? Or... More purring noises cracked out of his speaker. No, silly him. Of course it wasn't spite. She was just being Screwloose. "That's wonderful, Screwloose. You're a very good kitty. But what I need you to be today is a pony, so we can talk. Can you be a pony for me?"
Meow.
A nurse stepped in. The tiny intern filly who'd just been hired. Doc's stable wish he could remember her name. It was Nurse something or other.
"They sent me to check up.
The nurse squeaked.
Is she being uncooperative?"
"No, it's fine," said Doc Stable. "You just have to be patient with her,"
Meow, 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 meow.
blared the speaker. He shuddered. Stupid cats. Screwloose's impressions were almost too darned close to the real thing. He pressed the button again. "Screwloose, listen carefully. You will not be allowed to leave this room until you can talk to me like a pony. Do you understand?" Screwloose hissed. Though the hospital-quality speaker, it sounded like static.
"Are you sure she's not being uncooperative?"
The little nurse asked. "I'm sure."
"Okay."
They waited for a while, and there in that room, there was a silence save for Screwloose. She still had her hoof pressed hard against the button, letting odd yowling sounds into her microphone. Her other hoof she used to beat the table, poor thing. She wanted out. Doc Stable had hoped she'd realize soon the only way she'd get out would be to settle down and speak with him. It almost hurt him to see her like this.
"They said you could get the shock sticks if she gets too crazy to talk,"
the nurse suggested.
Meow.
Doc Stable rubbed his temples. Occasionally, the hospital staff managed to be more infuriating than the patients themselves. They don't know what they're talking about, and if I find out who they are, there's gonna be consequences. Let me tell you, miss.
Nursery rhyme, sir.
Meow.
Right, sorry, my fault. Nursery rhyme. Let me tell you this, Miss Nursery Rhyme. Medicine has made a lot of progress in the last 100 years. We are past the point of treating our patients like, animals. Even if they decide they want to act like them. We do not use the shock sticks unless there's absolutely no other option.
But
No buts, except for the gluteus. Repeat after me. Patients are ponies too.
Meow.
patients are ponies too.
Nursery Rhyme mumbled, looking thoroughly ashamed.
But what will we do if she doesn't want to talk?
We wait, Doc Stable said simply. She'll come around soon. They waited, in complete silence. The speaker had stopped making cat noises. Eventually it started back up again, this time in the voice that belonged to Screwlooses, not a kitty.
I'm a pony now.
Fantastic, Screwloose, the doc said. He winked at Nursery Rhyme. Much faster than last time. Are we ready to talk? She nodded enthusiastically in response, her ragged grey mane flying everywhere.
Yes.
And this is where it gets tricky, said Doc Stable to Nursery Rhyme. Don't say anything, just watch. You might learn something here. He spoke into the microphone. How do you like your new room, Screwloose?
Don't.
Don't what?
Don't.
Screwloose, listen carefully.
Don't like it.
Thank you. Why don't you like it?
Too small.
Do you understand why you were moved from your bigger room? She shook her head. No, she didn't. Or she didn't want to admit that she did. 2 days ago, said Doc Stable, there was some trouble with a pony who snuck into the hospital. Do you remember this, Screwloose? She nodded. And did you leave the hospital when this happened? She shook her head. Tell the truth, Screwloose. It's good to tell the truth. Did you leave the hospital?
Didn't do nothing.
She said defensively. She'd done it, of course. Doc Stable had seen her himself, running around outside, barking like mad. But she still denied it, like a foal with crumbs in her mouth, swearing to Celestia that she had never been into the cookie jar. Only, not a foal, a full-grown mare. Moments like these, Doc Stable decided, were what made his job the hardest. Screwloose?
Didn't do nothing.
I'm only asking you to be honest with me.
Didn't do nothing.
She shouted.
Didn't do nothing.
She got up on the table and threw herself against the glass. It held, just as it had been designed to, and she bounced right off it. Her mouth seemed to be open in a scream, but with her hoof off the button, it couldn't be heard from the dark side of the room. All he could do was watch as she got back up and threw herself against it again, and again, and again, and again.
What's wrong with her?
Nursery Rhyme whispered. It's none of your concern. Doc snapped. He realized what he'd said. No, sorry, that's my fault again. I apologize. Could you be a dear and get me a teddy bear? Preferably get well with heart, but any will do.
Yes, sir.
She came back a few minutes later carrying a teddy bear with Get Well embossed in gold on its chest. In its little puffed claws was a little stuffed heart. Thank you, nurse, he said. Now, let's hope this works. He held the teddy bear up to the glass and pressed the button. Screwloose, listen carefully. You see the bear? She listened carefully, stopping her tantrum just for long enough to see the bear and realized that she wanted it. She pointed the hoof at the bear. Her mouth moved. The button, Screwloose. Her hoof went down on the button.
Bear.
She said.
Grr.
You're not a bear, Screwloose. You're a pony. Be a pony for me.
Bear.
She roared. If you promise to be a good pony, you can have it.
Pony.
Doc Stable gave the bear to Nursery Rhyme. Could you take this to her, please? Screwloose's eyes followed the Get Well bear carefully as Nursery Rhyme took it up and left the room.
Where'd Bear go?
She demanded.
Promised.
Shh, he said soothingly. It's coming. A slot opened up in the wall next to her. Presented to her was the brand new Get Well teddy bear with a little stuffed heart. To your left, screw loose, said Doc Stable. She looked to the right. Other way. She looked left, and in the blink of an eye, the bear was cuddled safely in her hooves.
Delivered, Dr. Stable.
Said Nursery Rhyme, who had just walked back in.
Are you sure?
See for yourself, said Doc Stable. Does she look calmer to you? Screwloose was cradling the bear now, her lips moving softly. Doc Stable's best guess that she was singing to it. Maybe. Nursery Rhyme. She didn't look like the crazy old Screwloose like right then. She looked almost normal.
I guess she does,
said Nursery Rhyme. Did it require any shock sticks?
I guess not.
Thanks for the bear.
Came Screwloose's voice through the speaker. Somehow, her hoof had found its way onto the button without any help.
Best friends, Doc.
Doc?
Asked Nursery Rhyme. She calls me Doc, said Doc Stable. To Screwloose, he said, You're welcome, Screwloose. You can name it if you want.
Get well,
said Screwloose. She pointed at the letters on his chest. Of course. We'll call it Get Well. He refrained from pointing out that she had a dozen of other bears named Get Well. No need to burst that particular bubble.
Get well,
she repeated, snuggling it up against her face. Doc Stable settled down in his chair for a bit. He sighed. Crisis averted. Day saved. It was a tiring word, all of this, but rewarding. Moments like these, he decided, were what made his job worth it.
So what now?
Asked Nursery Rhyme. We wait, he said. Give her some time to cool off.
There's a lot of waiting, isn't there?
He shrugged, and there was nothing left to say about it. After 10 minutes or so, he pressed the button. Are we ready to talk again, Screwloose? Screwloose spared enough attention from her bear to look up at and put a hoof on the button.
Yes.
Are you sure, Screwloose? She nodded. You said I'm your best friend, right? She nodded. So, you're going to be honest with me? She nodded. Then have you ever left the hospital without being given permission? She shook her head. Never?
Never.
Not even 2 days ago?
Not even.
Doc Stable sighed. Well, that was that. For now, at any rate. If she didn't want to admit it just yet, there was nothing he could do about it. Short of the shock sticks, of course. All right, Screwloose, he said. Best friends trust each other. Just remember that it's always good to tell the truth.
We'll remember,
Screwloose muttered. She squeezed her bear tight. I'm going to leave now, Screwloose. Our nurse will come and take you to your room.
the small one.
If you're a good pony until next time, we can see about moving you back to the bigger one, okay?
Okay.
She nodded.
Bye-bye, Doc.
Bye-bye, Screwloose, said Dr. Stable. He got up from his chair and made it for the door. Come along, Nursery. Let's leave her alone. From the patient's side of the glass, Screwloose waved him goodbye.
So what was the point of all that, Dr. Stable?
Nursery Rhyme asked once they were out in the hallway. Doc Stable raised an eyebrow. Point?
She didn't get any better, did she?
Oh, well, I wouldn't say that. She really is getting any better. It's not the kind of thing you can measure on a graph, though. We can't always tell how, and we can't always say why, but we know she's making progress. She didn't make as much as we'd hoped she would make this time, but she still made some.
I didn't see it.
Well, you can't ask too much of her. There aren't any miracles in this profession. The most important thing for you to remember is that patients
Our ponies, too.
See? Doc Stable smiled. Progress! Now, I don't know about you, but I'm famished. Let's see if we can get ourselves a bite to eat,
Yes, sir.
The end.